Hey guys, all right, a couple things before I get into this officiating analysis thread. Number one, Michigan lost this game. Regardless of any of the calls here, Michigan's loss was a team effort on all sides of the ball, coaching, any number of things. So no amount of officiating in this game cost Michigan the game, though I still think it's relevant to discuss. Number two, there were bad calls against both teams. Yes, Michigan got a lot of bad calls. There were inconsistent calls against Michigan State as well. Looking at both sides here, more just trying to call out the bad officiating for the entire game. Number three, I'm not covering all instances of penalties or missed calls. I believe there were 0 offensive holding calls. There's not a chance that actually happened or that that's actually accurate. I didn't go through every play looking for a hold, so I'm sure there's things that I missed here. I covered mainly the big ones that I think were notable from yesterday's game. Number four, for this specific thread, I'm only covering the penalties themselves. So I'll be doing further analysis of the plays themselves in different threads. This is strictly focusing on the penalty aspect of the given plays and their impact. So with that being said, let's get into this mess of a game from the officials.
Against the Wolverines, second down and 8 at the 27-yard line. Lombardi again to throw, sideline, and incomplete, but a flag on the play.
And so it begins with the defensive pass interference call here against Jalen Green. Let's skip to the coverage here. So initial shoulder grab there. You can see initially Jalen Green does have hold of his shoulder right there. So not egregious. I'd say that's usually just regular hand fighting. On the break, again, some hand fighting. I don't think there's anything here. At this point, he has good coverage. Hand fighting at this point, nothing egregious. It's at this point, boom. That's something you just can't do as defensive back. It's going to get called 90 times out of 100, 99 times maybe even. You have a ref standing over here. You have a ref standing over here. This is just a clear throw a flag target for a ref. He turns the body a little bit. Again, it's obviously before the ball gets there. That's plenty of time between the penalty infraction and the pass arriving. So to me, there's just no doubt on this one. It's just not something you can do. And he's in really good position too, which makes it even more frustrating. There's no need to do that. He's in perfect position. He's able with his length to get his hand out in front even without this hand on the shoulder here of Reed. So there's really no reason for him to be doing this. This is just abandoning his technique and just feeling uncomfortable, and he felt the need to do this. Turns to wide receiver. Again, this is the correct call. Can't be doing that, Green.
So Bryce Behringer will send it away from the 30. Giles Jackson, the deep man.
So this one wasn't called. I think it could have been called leaping on Hassan Haskins. So you see Haskins coming through here. Watch him leap up over 54, attempting to block the kick from Behringer here. This penalty would be called leaping. I'll throw up what it is on the screen, what the penalty call is. The main rules here is you cannot be jumping over a player or into a player above the plane. If you are going to be jumping in order to block a kick, it has to be straight up. In this instance that you're trying to jump over someone, you can't be jumping into them or above their body in the attempt to block. That seems pretty cut and dry to me with what Haskins is. Now, one exception to the rule is if he's jumping through a gap. So if he's pointed more towards right here instead of over 54, that wouldn't be a penalty. You're allowed to jump through a gap in players. But I think he's squarely on 54 here, so I think this is a missed call. And this rule exists for player safety. They don't want players to be jumping over guys. That's how you fall on your arm awkwardly. That's how you can potentially hurt yourself. So that's why the rule exists. So in the spirit of this rule, it's pretty dangerous, and I think it probably should have been called just because, again, it's mainly over top of 54 there, at least an attempt to, and that's just not something you can do. Michigan was pretty fortunate, I think, to not be called a penalty in this instance.
Lombardi, side throw, and incomplete.
This was called holding against Vincent Gray here. Let's take a look at the infraction here. So initially you do a Vincent Gray with a hold on the shoulder. This is relatively early in the play, so I think that's pretty light. You usually see that from most defensive backs. On this double move here, you see that the wide receiver swats Vincent Gray's arm away, right? You see that right here. He's swatting Vincent Gray's contact away. And then there's no other contact throughout outside of this one little swipe right there. That's it. And I paused it so you see it, but I'm going to rewind this and you'll see that this is very, very minor. This is something that is more of a brush. He doesn't actually grab. Sure, he's reaching for it, right? He's actually reaching for that. But he doesn't actually grab. He doesn't impede the movement here as a part of that. And look how late that flag comes. That's my main issue with this play. If you want to call holding on this initial hold here, right off the bat, if you want to call holding on that, then I should be seeing a flag now, right? Because that's the only time that we actually see illegal contact. If you want to call it there, that's the only time it actually happens from Vincent Gray. The rest here, sure, you can say he attempted to grab there. He doesn't actually grab there. So for this flag to be this late, and again, remember that despite the ball ending up over here, defensive holding occurs. This is where the ball is going to end up. Defensive holding occurs before the pass is thrown. Pass interference is where if it's not catchable, then it's not a penalty. So they're saying that before this ball was thrown, which was only this contact right here, that is what the defensive holding was right here at the beginning of the play. This is what the defensive holding was. Why was the flag so late? I don't know. To call it on that second act right there, that's really weak to me. I think that's a really bad call.
In motion. Lombardi didn't expect that snap, and
this is called Disconcerting Signals. Now, history lesson real quick. Michigan ran this last year. Don Brown called move when Army had 2nd and 1, I believe, close to the Michigan goal line. That was a call from the sideline from Don Brown. He said move, and similarly, his defensive lineman shifted, and it was called a false start because a fullback in Army's backfield moved at the move call. So that worked. It was called against the offense. In this case, watch Cam McGrone here. He's the one who makes this call. You see move, boom. He made the move. You can see his head move. You're going to have the offensive lineman move. And then you're going to have the defensive lineman move. And then consequently, the offensive line moves as a part of that. So the key aspect of this rule, I'll bring it on screen. Key aspect of this rule is that it has to be from a player in order for it to be a penalty. There's nothing that says coaches on the sideline. So since this came from a player, it is a penalty. My main issue is 3rd and 5. It's still 3rd and long. You know, MSU averaged around 3 yards per carry. They're not going to run the ball here. It's essentially 3rd and long for them. What's the benefit of running this move call? If it's 3rd and inches, sure. Higher yield from the defense for that risk. But this essentially just gifted a first down for MSU. It's a really bad call. I don't know if that's just McGrone or on the coaches. Either way, not great.
Here in the first quarter, Lombardi. He goes to the other side and incomplete. Little holding going on and another flag.
This is called defensive pass interference against Vincent Gray. Let's watch it here. Let's just skip to this alternate angle. So again, you have the initial tug here. Again, you could call that. Bigger issue here is later on. You just can't do that, man. So first aspect, it is called defensive pass interference. Is this a catchable ball? It lands barely out of bounds, right? It's on the left side of your screen here. It's going to land right around here. If he has the freedom to go up and jump for it, maybe gets a hand on it. They're always going to side with the offense on that sort of decision making. Think of like intentional grounding and how wide that net is of what's a catchable ball or in the area of a wide receiver. This is surely in the area, so they're going to give the benefit of the doubt to the wide receiver. Main issue here, Vincent Gray, you just can't be doing that, man. Like he has grips on him, essentially the whole play right here, right on the shoulder, and then he brings his second arm over, and there's just no reason to do that. Again, he's abandoning his technique. He's in good position here. He's stride for stride with this guy. He doesn't need to be holding on. Bringing a second arm here to yank down on the arm of the wide receiver right there just impedes his movement. There's really no reason for it, and that's just going to attract the eyes of every official known to man. I mean, this is blatant. You know, you have both hands on the sink, like just pulling down there. There's no real words to describe that, and it's an obvious call. So even if it's technically close to uncatchable, they're going to side with the offense, and that's a very blatant pull down of the arm. So that's a correct call. Can't be doing that, man.
Michigan State faced with a 3rd and 8. Michigan jumps off.
3rd and 8 and Michigan jumps off sides. This is just a discipline issue here. I mean, you have 3 guys for Michigan. Actually, all 4 jump, but these 3, Welshoff, Kemp, Hutchinson, these are, I mean, these 2 guys are your veterans on your team, right? They've been starters for a while. Welshoff's obviously newer, but Pay even jumps a little bit, though he's okay. He doesn't jump off sides, but these 3 guys all jump off sides and cause the penalty here, and there's just no excuse to that. So my main issue on the officiating here, obviously it's the correct call. There shouldn't have been a dead ball foul. So like unless there's 2 stipulations. If the defender who jumps offside, so that causes any movement from these guys before the snap, then yes, it's offsides because it caused movement from the offense, and that's what triggered it. There's no movement from any of the offensive players. The other way is if this guy has a free shot in the backfield. Again, you want to protect your quarterback in the case of offside so he doesn't get a free shot just off of that 5-yard penalty. But this isn't the case either. So I don't know why there's a call a dead ball foul. Obviously, it helps Michigan because then it's not a free shot play for MSU in this case, but that's just bad officiating. But obviously, the bigger issue here is no discipline from Michigan's defensive line. They just can't be doing that. It's 3rd and 8. This gives Michigan State a 3rd and 3. So that's just not what you want to see from your veteran defensive lineman.
Down and 3 at midfield. Here's a handoff. Hayward, can he get?
All right, 3rd and 3 here. I don't know why I didn't do the replay here. So the main guy to watch here is this wide receiver coming across, and he's going to put a block on Hawkins here, who's flowing down to this play. This is called a blindside block. You could also call it a block in the back, even though it's technically like from the side. And the ruling does like it. I don't know, man. I'm kind of conflicted on this one because yes, technically it's a blindside block, right? By the rule book, this is the penalty. I think this is more me just not liking the rule. It's also not consequential to this play. Brad Hawkins getting blocked here that has no effect on where this play actually goes. So I think it's more of just a dumb play from MSU. It is correct by the rule book. I wouldn't call it egregious, but they're trying to eliminate those sorts of blocks overall. So technically that's a correct call against Michigan State there.
Volume to do that, you know?
Lombardi, screen, and he's got his man Simmons with blocker. Simmons, flag on the play. Big game, but let's see.
Screen pass here, and this is called another blindside block. Main guy to watch here. Again, on the outside, this wide receiver, he's going to come down on Josh Ross and pick up a block here. Now, the main issue I have with this one is that if Josh Ross plays this differently, then it technically wouldn't have been a blindside block. Again, by the rule book, this is a correct call. But if Josh Ross recognizes this, if he says, oh, this is going to be a screen this way, I think there's going to be a block coming out to get me. If he turns his head this way and faces this block, that's a legal play, right? Because then if he turns his shoulder, if he starts running this way, his head, his eyes are looked this way, and he gets blocked, then boom, you're actually rewarding the offense for a defense being more aware of the play. The defensive player not being aware of this block coming rewards him for his lack of awareness there. So you're rewarding the defender for not being aware of something that he probably should be expecting on a play like this. So that's why it's kind of backwards to me, but by the rule book, it is the correct call. I wouldn't call it like a flagrant foul, you know, that's not upper contact to the head or neck area. I wouldn't say that's flagrant, but they're trying, again, to eliminate all sorts of these blindside blocks. So by the rule book, it's technically correct. I just don't know what you do outside of never running those kind of blocks again. I don't know. I disagree with it, but that is the correct call on the field. That's how it's supposed to be called.
Cup gives Michigan a first down at the Michigan State 16-yard line. Corum back in. He's the pistol back. Milton, slant, caught, close to a touchdown. Ronnie Bell.
Pass to Ronnie Bell from Milton here. Really nice pass. My main gripe here is that it wasn't reviewed. So obviously Michigan gets a break here by not being reviewed. And I do think it's probably a catch, right? So let's analyze this. Right there, looks like Ronnie Bell has it, right? Looks like he has it. He has the one step right there as he's catching the ball. As he's tucking, there's a second step, third step. This arm that comes in, watch this left hand from the defender here. He's going to chop right here on Ronnie Bell. And I think it possibly causes the ball to move. Now, whether he already had control by this point or not, that's you to determine. I think he probably does. I think this would be called a secured catch and then this like a possible fumble, but he's down, obviously. But the main issue here is I see the ball move a little bit, right? Right there, you can see Ronnie Bell kind of holding it against his body. Right here, you can see he's just holding it against his body a little bit. So the ball does have movement. Again, it's what did he secure the catch before that punch came through and altered the ball there? I think it is. But even so, you can see again the ball kind of shifting as it hits the ground. So again, for this to not go to review, I think is a mistake. It's a 1st and goal. You're right there. I think it's worth reviewing, and that's my gripe with this one. They just have to be consistent in reviewing catches that could possibly be incompletions. So they didn't. Michigan caught a break there, and it was probably the right call for it to be a catch. But again, you have review at your disposal. Why not use it? I think they should have on this play.
Wise throw. 2nd down and 10. Milton over the middle this time and incomplete.
Yeah, I'm kind of with you, Banks, on this one. I think this probably could have been called. It's up to where your fandom lies, possibly. But outside release slant route here, watch the defensive back, number 16. I think he gets there a hair early. With how close they were calling the other ones, I think this definitely could have been. So you get contact somewhere within this time range, right? So you see the right hand of number 18. And I think the right hand is the main thing to take a look at. So we see it here. We don't get an alternate angle of this play, but we know at some point it's making contact with Eubanks' waist. We can see that right here as the ball is arriving. You can definitively see this hand is in contact with this waist. So it's sometime between this and here. It's probably right about here that he's making that contact. How much that's affecting Eubanks is your discretion. I think it's something that they usually pay close attention to, but it looks like he's slightly turning the body of Eubanks here as he's diving in with that left hand. So main difference, again, we saw Green early with his hand up high, up on the shoulder. This is down towards the midsection here, so it's always less likely to be called in this scenario. Again, this one's 50-50, where I think he gets there a hair early with how close they've been calling these throughout the game and will be calling these later on. I could see this very easily drawing a flag in this game. Obviously, Michigan didn't get the benefit on this one. I'm still 50-50 on that one.
Michigan.
This one's just dumb, man. It's 3rd and 10. Main thing to watch here is this defensive end starts coming towards the line of scrimmage, right? He's coming towards the neutral zone. Hayes is going to jump and act like he's blocking, really because he thinks that this defender crosses the neutral zone, and that's what matters. Does he cross this blue line or doesn't? In this case, he does not. So the defensive end does start coming up, but he stops before that blue line, right? He's not crossing it. So Hayes moving here. If that guy would have crossed the neutral zone, that would have been offsides. Since the defender does not cross the neutral zone here, that's not a penalty on the defense. Instead, it's just false start. So you have to understand, if you're Hayes, you have to make a mental note of where this is, right? He's a couple yards away from it because he's the left tackle. But he has to know that this is where the line's going to be and just get a sense for that. So that's kind of trying to bait them into an offsides penalty, and it doesn't work. It only sets your offense up in a worse spot. Already 3rd and 10. Now it's 3rd and 15. That's just not something you can do to your offense that's already struggling this game.
Lombardi to throw it. Lombardi again. Incomplete, but another.
Jalen Perry is in for Vincent Gray now. He gets hit on this defensive holding penalty. Let's skip to this other angle. Sorry, I didn't have that up initially. So first step here, yes, he's holding there, right? Again, we saw this kind of earlier with the Vincent Gray holding. He's got a hold of his shoulder here. Again, I don't think this is initially what gets called here. I think as we move along here, we can see, okay, after this break, he loses grip, right? Right there, you can see he kind of loses grip there. The issue I have, and I think that the refs see, his hand are on the numbers. On the numbers, you can't be doing that. He re-grabs, I think the second grab as the wide receiver's making his break. That's what's getting the call. And we also can't see what his right hand is doing, right? So a grab on the numbers, This is impeding his movement a little much. Even though he lets go here, it's a little bit too late. At this point, it was about, what, 80% of this route that Perry was holding on. Maybe he releases right there. So 70% of his route, he was holding on to the jersey. So, again, is that like the most egregious hold? I don't think so. The one that got called on Gray was even less than this. So I think it's tough, man. It's tough. With the way they're calling this, it seems like any sort of contact would be a hold here. So while I would say that this is technically correct, I think it's that second hold right there. I think that's what gets the penalty. Can't really disagree with it because he did have contact throughout the route. Main issue I have, it's not needed. He's in good position here. You don't need to hold on to this guy. He's not trusting his technique. He goes for the hold, and again, they're just calling it super close this game. So while it's technically correct, I've seen a lot worse not get called. So yeah, it's a bummer.
And at the 42. And
second time in a row, and again, it's the clap. I didn't point out last one, I don't think, but it's the clap from Lombardi. That's what gets them to jump offsides. You can see the clap from Lombardi coming in. Boom, clap. And you have Ojabo who jumps off first on 55 on the outside for Michigan. He's going to jump first. You're also going to have Pay and Hutchinson both go offsides too. That's three. I mean, that's two veterans, right? Two guys that are supposed to be leaders of your defense jumping offsides, not watching the ball. Watch the ball. You don't have any of these guys. They seemingly are watching the ball, and they still go. So this is just, again, lack of discipline. Look at the down and distance. 3rd and 9. Last one was 3rd and 8. This one's 3rd and 9. It makes it 3rd and manageable for MSU. That opens up the playbook a ton. That's just not mistakes that you can make. You can afford to wait an extra quarter of a second to ensure that ball moves. They're just not having that eye discipline behind them, and that costs them 5 yards here. And that's a huge impact. That's a huge impact in this game. So can't be doing that as a leader.
Donovan Peoples-Jones. Milton up top. Incomplete. Same.
All right, for this to not be called is the worst call of the game, I think, by far. So let's look at the route here from Sainristil and where the potential holding is. So right away, boom, you got hand on the shoulder, right? That's something to point out, something that Michigan defensive backs have been doing as well. You know my stance, you're allowed that early. The main issue here, he's pulling that down. That is pretty egregious, I would say. If Sanders still fell over, you could see that. That's pretty egregious. All right, so that's the first offense here. Second offense, he's holding on right here again. So not only was he holding on the first time, he is getting a grip of Sainristil's arm. I mean, it's not as egregious or visible as grabbing by the numbers that we saw Jalen Perry, but he's still grabbing there, right? He's still holding on, and that's after the initial tug. So there's the tug, there's holding of the arm. As it goes on, as the ball's about to arrive, you also have defensive back draped around. His front arm is draped around the front here. You have the back arm against this, and his foot is tangled up here. So his body is getting into him as well, and this is all before the ball arrives. I think you could have called this defensive holding or pass interference at this point. Neither were called. Again, going back to Michigan's calls here. Jalen Perry. Sure, he's got the shoulder pad there, right? Here's the secondary hold on the numbers there. Secondary grab. I would say this is less egregious than the last one. Nothing at the end of the play that would be considered pass interference. This was called holding. Going back to Vincent Gray's play earlier. Again, initial grab there of the shoulder pad, and then nothing else. Nothing else on this play. Nothing nearly as egregious as that other one. This was called for pass interference, this was called for holding as well. So for those two to be called holding, but they let this one slide where you have a clear tug right there, clear tug, and then a second grab of the arm, and then at the end of the play, that's egregious. That should be called 100% of the time.
Play fake, Lombardi.
This is another one that I think Michigan fans could have a ton of gripes about. So give credit to Lombardi on this throw, absolutely. You could even flag maybe Green for this slight tug here, right? He's pretty beat on this route, so you could have this hold with the right hand there, but I wouldn't say that's egregious. Main thing to be upset about, as he's coming down with this ball, right? Seems like a good catch. You can see this ball is moving right there. You can see the ball is shifting in his arms a little bit after whether this hits under his arm, hits the ground. We can't tell from this angle, but you can tell the ball is shifting. Only now would I really say he has control. The ball is still kind of rotating a bit, so there's still movement on that ball there, right? Let's go to a secondary angle here. This one I think is probably the clearest angle that you can see that the ball hits. Again, look at try to follow the tip of this ball right there. I think you get a clear shot. Again, you can see the white of the ball just a little bit right here. And you can see it hits the ground at least a little bit. Now, again, from the other angle, we saw the ball move. We see kind of the body of green covering up a little bit. We have another angle here, though, that shows on the catch. And again, I like to look at the white of the ball here. So follow this white of the ball. If he has full control, you know, we see that white of the ball hitting the ground there. We can see it rotating against the ground there. So whether you would argue, and again, the ball's rotating right there still, so he's still trying to gather control after it's hitting the ground. So to me, that seems pretty conclusive that it's incomplete. The broadcast crew agreed with that as well. For it to not go to replay at all, that's my main issue. Whether it stands, you know, I would disagree with the officiating crew, but for them not to review this at all. Again, this was third down. This is a big play, 3rd and 3. Fourth quarter, to not go back and review this catch, that is egregious. That is something that I don't think can be excused, and that's a huge swing there from a 3rd down that would turn into a punt situation to a 1st down for the Spartans.
It's McDonald. Another long throw.
This is another similar one where this one didn't go to review. And let's just skip ahead. And I do think this is a catch, so I'll preface it with that. And we don't get very many good angles here. My main issue, again, here is that this was a highly contested catch that was very close to the ground. Against, you know, both guys fell here. And my main issue, why was this not reviewed? Because it goes through the arm of Jalen Perry here. It's off his shoulder. And then you see White pulled in with one arm here. And then you see... This is why I do think it's a catch. We don't get the best angle, but it's close, right? This arm right here, this is the only thing keeping the ball from touching the ground. Now, we can't see the other side of the ball. We can't see the front from this angle, but it's close, right? The ball ends up still moving, and now it's in his lap. We can see it starting to just kind of roll around in White's lap here. Only now does he really secure it. So, again, if they have another angle, maybe there's something on the other side there. I do think this is a catch, though. We don't have enough to say otherwise, so I think this play would still stand. But to me, there's just no reason. Again, why didn't this go to review? You know, if we go back, this is 6 minutes left in the 4th quarter. Huge play down to the goal line. For this to not be reviewed, again, there have been no reviews at this point in the game. That's just egregious to me. I don't know why you would even... why not? You have it at your disposal. I don't understand that.
Guard, and he's just going to cut the defensive lineman. He wasn't engaged up top.
All right, so the call here was clipping on this left guard. So watch 67, his block against, I believe this is Jeter. And it is clipping if it is from behind and at or below the knee. So those are the two stipulations. If it's from behind and at or below the knee, then it is a penalty. So that's what they're determining on this play, that 67 made contact at the knee and from behind. What I think helps Michigan's case in this scenario is how Jeter falls. You can see he kind of falls with his butt on top of the offensive lineman. This kind of shows the hand of where the block was, right? I think if you're Michigan State, you could be upset with this because it seems like it's more from the side. I can see that argument, right? I'll show the ruling on the screen as well from the official rule book. The head does not determine whether it was from the front or the back. So the head being, you know, at the front of the leg, that's not the determining factor. Where's the contact being made? Since it is Donovan Jeter's right leg as well, it might be towards the backside of his leg. Again, I think this is debatable because I think it's probably closer to the thigh, closer to the side, but they're going to side with the defender because this is a player safety rule. blocking from behind below the knee. That's how you get blown out knees. So I think in the spirit of the rule, that's why they're going to side with the defender, especially given how he falls. It just doesn't bode well for anyone looking at that play, right? It's a bang-bang play. It's close, very close. So I think I would still call this 50-50, and they're always going to side with the player safety rule or the spirit of the rule. So I would say it's still 50-50. It's close. Michigan got fortunate on this, I think, but it's still close. And if you're going by the rule book or by the spirit of the rules, I could see why this would be a valid penalty.